if we look at the first compound, okay, in this diagram, this fatty acid has a single bond. There is no double bond between the atoms, okay? While in compound B, we do have double bond between one of the two methylene group of this hydrocarbon chain. The first compound, or the first A compound, we can call it saturated fatty acid, while compound B is unsaturated fatty acid. What is the difference between saturated fatty acid and unsaturated fatty acid? The saturated fatty acid is containing just a single bond between the atoms, while the unsaturated fatty acid has a double bond, even single double bond, or more than one double bond between its atoms. Okay? So the non-polarity of the hydrocarbon chain will account for its poor solubility of fatty acids in water. Generally, the fatty acids can end with the suffix either enoic or anoic. The saturated fatty acids will end with the suffix anoic, as hexadecanoic, which is the palmitic acid. And for your knowledge, palmitic acid is the first fatty acid that our body can synthesize it generally. Okay? When our body need any fatty acid, the pathway of the fatty acid synthesis, okay, will end first with palmitic acid. Then our body can add other carbon atoms, or can make it any kind of desaturation. Okay, the unsaturated fatty acid has at least single double bond. Okay, so we do have monounsaturated fatty acids and we do have polyunsaturated fatty acid. As you know, mono means single double bond. Polyunsaturated mean two or more double bonds. Okay, and the double bond can be either in cis or trans area. Okay, the saturated fatty acids are solid at room temperature, and the unsaturated fatty acids are liquid at room temperature. The fatty acids in the human body, in generally, as we mentioned, okay, one of the essentiality of the fatty acids in generally that it's containing essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are polyunsaturated fatty acids that the body cannot make them. Now you do understand the meaning of essential fatty acid, polyunsaturated. Our body cannot synthesize them or cannot make them. So, as we mentioned, essential fatty acid, this means that fatty acids that our body cannot synthesize them. When we say these fatty acids or these essential fatty acids are polyunsaturated, so we do mean what? We do mean these fatty acids has more than single double bond in their structure, right? As linoleic and linolenic. Okay, and their lack in the infants can lead to some skin dermatitis. As we mentioned, the fatty acids generally can end either with a suffix anoic or enoic. When the fatty acid is saturated, it will end with a suffix anoic, as hexadecanoic. Okay, and when there is unsaturated fatty acid, this will end with the suffix enoic. Okay, so how can we name fatty acid? Right now we get the point of the suffix. let's have a look at the numbering of the carbon atoms of the fatty acids. We do have carboxyl group, we do have methylene group, we do have methyl group. Okay, the carboxyl group are COO, right? Or COOH in general, okay? And the terminal methyl group is CH3, while in the middle we'll find CH2, for example, right? The first carbon is the carboxyl group. Then the alpha carbon, we do have beta carbon, gamma carbon, okay? The terminology of the fatty acids in several ways actually. One of them by the omega naming, other by calculation, okay, of the calculation of the number of the carbon atoms. So if we have a look here in this slide at when we say that 18 to 912 essential, this means that linoleic acid is containing 18 carbon atom. It has 2 double bonds. The 2 double bonds, the first double bond is between the carbon number 9 and the carbon number 10, while the second double bond is between carbon number 12 and carbon number 13. When we say linoleic acid, also essential, we do mean that this fatty acid is polyunsaturated and our body cannot synthesize it. When we say 18, 3, 9, 12, 15, this means that this fatty acid containing 18 carbon atoms, okay, and it's unsaturated in 3 areas, or it's containing 3 double bonds. The first double bond between carbon number 9 and carbon number 10, the second between carbon number 12, carbon number 13, the third between carbon number 15, carbon number 16, okay? As we mentioned, also let's have a look just to this last line. Also, we can call that double bond, we can say that delta, okay? When we say delta 9, this means that between carbon, the double bond is between delta 9, 18, 1. This means that 18 carbon atom, 1 or single double bond. Delta 9 means that this double bond between carbon number 9 and carbon number 10. Okay, so let's revise the naming of the fatty acid. So this fatty acid can end either with suffix anoic or anoic. Anoic in case of saturated fatty acid, and when we say saturated fatty acid, this means that the fatty acid containing single bonds. There is no double bond. When we say unsaturated fatty acid, this means that the fatty acid is containing either single double bond or more than single double bond, and we can say monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. The naming of the fatty acids either by omega, alpha carbon, beta carbon, omega, okay, or by the numbering. Okay, so in case of omega, the carboxyl carbon will be carbon number 1, the alpha carbon is carbon number 2, while beta carbon is carbon number 3, and etc. till to reach the omega carbon, which is the terminal methyl carbon. But when we say that the calculation is numbering as 18, 1, 9, this means that we do have 18 carbon atoms, we do have single double bond between carbon number 9 and carbon number 10. Also, we can say that delta 9, 18, 1, okay? So this means that the delta means that the double bond is between the carbon number 9 and the carbon number 10. Okay, what is the meaning of cis and trans isomers? Of course you know the meaning of isomers, right? So let's have a look at the idea of cis and trans. In this diagram we can see the cis and the trans atoms, or actually it's a bond. Okay, have a look to the cis and have a look to the trans. In this table, there are examples of the physiologically relevant fatty acids, an example of its naming. Okay, palmitic acid 16-0. This means that 16 carbon atoms with no double bond. Branch chain fatty acid. The fatty acid present in mammalian tissues generally are aliphatic, but of course it can contain branch